Hi everyone, Opal here with Girl of Steel Musings, and today I'm here to break down the dream sequences from the latest Supergirl Season 3 episode, Girl of Steel, and talk about my theories for Rain, who is this season's villain. I apologize for being a little sporadic with my activity. I had a lot going on this week, and sadly I have a lot going on next week, so I might be a little slow with uploading stuff. Let's get into the episode here, shall we? Just a little warning, I'm going to be discussing a lot of the Kara and Mon-El relationship as they were the focus of these dreams. If you don't like them together, you may want to skip this episode entirely or move to the spot where I talk about my Rain theory. I will put the timestamp about Rain in the description. So in the scene, we don't see Kara's face immediately. Instead, we see her hand caressing the streams of grass. We also see what looks like Saturn in the background. The shot goes from something we know to something foreign, an amalgam of the normal with the extra normal. The filter and the lens flare establishes we're in a dream. The yellow sun indicates we're not on Krypton, while the planet in the background indicates we're not on Earth either. Then we see Kara walking along a plowed path. Notice she isn't walking through the grass, but a path that might lead somewhere. A path that we find out later in the episode she's frequented many times over the past few months. We don't see Mon-El immediately, but rather his hand providing her comfort in her seeming solitude. Notice he wasn't previously there in the wide shot witnessed a few moments ago. Kara seems surprised to see him, but at the same time, there is an alarm. She doesn't turn quickly. The way the shot is framed, we don't focus on Mon-El at all. We aren't shown a close-up of his face at any instance. Then the shot cuts to a blurry image of the lovers through the field. Again, Mon-El isn't the focus. Instead, it's Kara. We see her eyes water as she fully takes in Mon-El's presence. This is followed by a kiss. We see more of the scenery in the background of the kiss. There's mountains in the background, the water along with Saturn in the sky once again. Kara then sees her mother. But what's interesting is that we see a shot of Allura over Mon-El's shoulder, as if someone is looking over his shoulder. Kara reunites with her mother as Mon-El stands in her wake and then later follows her. Her reaction to seeing her mother is disbelief and alarm, almost as if she's come to the realization she doesn't want to face. But she succumbs to the relief of embracing her, like she's wanted to since the first time she saw the projection of her in the hologram in Season 1. I want to talk about the soundtrack here, too. The song that's used has the word daydreaming in it several times, so I actually don't believe this is your classic dream when we cut back to reality. She's hovering over the city, kind of an odd place to take a nap. I think this is either her literally daydreaming, or she's just thinking about the dream, as we know it's haunted her for several months. So what does this dream mean? Several documentations have noted that dreams are a subconscious representation of our deepest fears. Evolutionary psychologists have even noted that dreams are a mechanism by which we practice facing some of our worst fears, and that's why they've been passed down through our genetics. For Kara, her guilt of sending Mon-El off into space is pervasive. We see that in the argument she has with Alex, and also how she flinches every time his name is mentioned. She believes that perhaps Mon-El is dead, and that if he is, she had a hand in his demise. This is why she was alarmed in seeing her mother, because she feels as though them occupying the same space means he perished just like she did. So that's the easy explanation. It was just a representation of Kara's guilt and fear, and that she's reuniting with Mon-El and her mother in her version of heaven. Yet, there's a few caveats to that. First, if this was strictly a representation of Kara's heaven, wouldn't it be on Earth or Krypton? Why in a place close to Saturn, when Kara's never even been off-world to visit Saturn? This causes me to believe that this isn't just Kara's dream. Let me quickly talk about one of my favorite movies, and that's Inception. Inception is all about dreams, and one of the concepts introduced is that while a different person dreams, another could occupy that person's subconscious. For example, Mon-El could be the one creating the architecture of the dream, and Kara is the one filling it with her subconscious. Therefore, the Mon-El we see in the dream isn't our Mon-El, but Kara's subconscious representation of him. I know a lot of people believe this is a shared dream with Mon-El, but I want to elaborate further. When Kara's necklace is given to Kara initially, Allura tells her that she'll be with Kara in her dreams. It's a lovely sentiment that's repeated to Mon-El in the finale, before Kara gives him the necklace. But what if it's more than just a sentiment? What if the necklace contains a device to facilitate dream sharing, similar to what's seen in the movie Inception? After all, we know that Zor-El was a brilliant scientist, and Kryptonian tech is far more advanced than the technology found on Earth. And we already know Kryptonians have the ability to create almost lifelike replicas of people that are no longer with them. As Kara's memento, it was never officially analyzed by the DEO, but if Mon-El is in the future, it's entirely possible they would have both the ability and the impotence to analyze it. But are Kara and Mon-El the only ones in the dream? I actually don't think so. There could be two possibilities, and I want to go back to the shot we see of Allura over Mon-El's shoulder. It could have been a stylistic choice, but I do think it has more prominence. There are two entities that could be looking over Mon-El's shoulder. First, it could be Rain or Sam, as we see her experience something similar at the end of the episode. But I personally think it's my second choice, and that's Saturn Girl or Imra Ardeen. For those of you who don't know, she will be making an appearance later in the season, and is one of the most powerful psychics in the DC universe. She could be mining through Mon-El's dreams for some reason, perhaps even testing to see if he's functionally fit to travel back to Earth. Why do I think Imra is also present as well? Because of the prominence of Saturn in the scenery. She's filling her consciousness into the dream as well, but as a spectator rather than a participant. So if Sam or Imra are present in this dream, why don't we see them? Same reason we didn't see Mon-El in the dream initially. It's because we're seeing Kara's subconscious representation of him. She wouldn't have constructs for Sam or Imra because she hasn't met them yet. Some people knocked this scene for not having dialogue, but it was necessary. Dialogue would have given the representations character, taking away from the fact that they're stock representations, not the real thing. And this becomes particularly important when we bring up Mon-El the second time around. Let's talk about that second dream sequence. Here we see Kara slip away as she's seemingly drowning. Wynn and Alex try to reach out to her through comms, but she's not responding. This time we see Mon-El in clear focus as he shouts, "Wake up." And what's more, he has a conviction in his voice. You'll notice the lighting is different as well, no dreamy filter. They also chose to zero in on Mon-El's face rather than show you the scenery. Instead, the scenery we do see is blurred. So in this case, I do think this is our Mon-El, not Kara's representation of him. He's somehow exploited the connection provided by the necklace and been able to occupy Kara's subconscious, and therefore has jolted her awake. But why do it here? I think it's because this genuinely posed a threat to Kara's life. We view time as linear, but Legends of Tomorrow and The Flash has introduced the concept that time is fluid in the Arrowverse. Therefore, the future and the past has had the ability to happen concurrently. Kara is very instrumental to the Legion of Superheroes, or LOSH. Her death would have had catastrophic consequences for them. So perhaps to prevent it, Mon-El was instructed to use this connection to save her, without revealing that he's from the future, as the Legion of Superheroes has strict guidelines for that as well. I do think we'll see this dream again in the future. Mon-El was wearing Kara's necklace in the scene, as can be seen very clearly in the behind-the-scenes footage Melissa Benoist posted of her and Chris Wood filming the scene. Yet it's not featured prominently in the episode. I do believe that this necklace is the key to unlocking the real meaning of these dreams, and we as an audience will go along the journey of discovery with Kara. The last dream sequence is the one that's most interesting for me, and it's shown right after we see a ship underneath the rubble. Here we see Allura again, but you can feel something is off. The dream looks the same, but Allura is standing with a rather tense posture, and her hand is bunched up into a fist. She turns much slower than when she turns in Kara's dream, and a blue filter is used. This made me believe that the ship is indeed Rain's, and the blue filter is supposed to symbolize being underwater. It's also interesting that we see snow. That seems to be a common element with Krypton, as we see that in the Fortress of Solitude. We then see comic book Rain's grotesque face on Allura's body as Sam jolts awake. I think this dream is also using the technology similar to what's been put in the locket. You'll notice when we see the ship, it's pulsating white, as though it's transmitting something. So perhaps it's been programmed to either start linking Kara and Rain's subconscious, although it's more a one-way street instead of a two-way street like we see with Mon-El, or it's just creating the idyllic place that's stored in the memory of the necklace or the ship. Why is Rain dreaming of Allura? And why do I think the necklace and the ship have similar concept? It all goes back to Zor-El. So in the comics, Zor-El created the World Killers as a biological weapon for Krypton. They were later deemed a threat by the Kryptonian Science Council, and they were ordered to be destroyed, but Zor-El couldn't do it. I think they were created by Zor-El in the show's timeline as well, and Kara has already been introduced to his darker nature in Season 2 with the Medusa virus, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. When Allura was recast this summer, I had an inkling she'd be playing a larger role this season, and with the introduction of Rain, I thought perhaps she would be created partially from Allura's DNA, linking the hero to the villain. Perhaps Zor-El meant to destroy her, but she was stolen away by the cult we see in the finale, who also stole some of Zor-El's tech to facilitate dream/subconscious sharing as well, and programmed it into the ship. Once Rain got activated by a traumatic event, such as almost losing her daughter, it would also trigger the mechanism in the ship to start transmitting. This would also facilitate Rain's transformation as well. So that's all I had to say in regards to the dreams in the episode and Rain. Again, I apologize for the sporadic activity. Thanks for listening, though. I'll catch you later, guys. Bye.